Is there cracks in Arsenal still?
Manager, Big Ange, you've got to do better. You know Arsenal
earning his pay, he's doing well.
One of the biggest frustrations for me in the modern game is the absolute painful inability to get past the first man at times.
They've got nothing to play for. If you were playing Fulham 2 months ago, it's a different story.
And if he does it again next season, Arteta might be looking for another goalkeeper.
It was Derby Day delight for Arsenal yesterday as they come out the victors in the North London derby. It meant so much to both sides, but going 3-0 up, Spurs did attempt to come back, but ultimately failed. Today, we are breaking down the game, the implications and more. Set pieces, is that a big factor? We'll start with that. Reece, ultimately, you look at the rankings, you look at the stats, set pieces, in my opinion, were key for Arsenal yesterday, and they proved it once again. How crucial were set pieces to winning the game? Because many would argue, particularly in that first half, you didn't really control the game, but ended up 3-0 up.
Yeah, 2 set pieces, 2 goals. It's as simple as that. I think, obviously, without those set pieces, then they don't have a 3-0 scoreline at half time, do they? They only have 1. So, yeah, you have to really credit a lot of that. The set piece coach is obviously earning his pay. He's doing well. And they got the goals. You know, the first one was an own goal, and people say it was an own goal, but Højbjerg was forced into making that header because the cross was so good into that section. And unfortunately for him, it went in. But that's what it's for. You've got to drive those issues. And then obviously Havertz used his height, jumped high on everybody and got his one as well. And it's everything about set pieces. You think of Ben White standing there, taking the Velcro off the gloves of the keeper. Everything going on in that box is what's contributing to these goals. And these goals are deserving it because they're winning Arsenal games. You know, I think we're quite critical of set pieces today. Corners very rarely make the first man, despite players being taller and more athletic than we've ever seen. So it's good to see him actually coming to fruition for once.
Well, I think outside of Arsenal, I mean, this is more of a general point, but one of the biggest frustrations for me in the modern game is the absolute painful inability to get it past the first man at times. It's incredible. Obviously, I see it more at Chelsea and notice it more for my own club, but I've seen other teams do it as well. But it's just baffling. And as you said, you've got athletic, you know, the modern athlete, these absolute beasts sometimes, as particularly centre backs, you know, 6 foot plus guys who can head a ball. And you've got corners like the one that comes to my mind is I think the Saka one against Bayern. I think it was a corner, literally last minute, the keeper's up and he can't clear the first man. And it's like, you know, I'm not just blaming Saka, but this seems to be a pattern across the board. And it's baffling to me. And you're seeing this season, you know, set pieces. You mentioned Arsenal have scored 22 set piece goals this season. So 25% of their goals have come through set pieces. And a big share of those are corners. And that will be obviously 25% more goals. Could end up being the difference in the title race. So I think they're absolutely key. To flip it back to Spurs, I guess, Jamie, how poor was Spurs defending them? Because it's a two-way street, set pieces.
Well, yeah, as sort of someone who was, you know, cheering on Spurs for one game of the season, that'll be it. That's me done. Once again, never rely on Spurs. It's so disappointing because, like you said, 2 corners, basically 2 goals. That's just a dreadful record, really. That's not good enough in any level of football. Really, you can't have it as 100% success rate. But the first one, the Højbjerg goal, like Reece is right, it is the pressure that sort of got to him, the reason why it's ending up in the back of the net. However, I reckon if he was attacking, he wouldn't have headed that ball as well to the goal. It was just one of them things where it's just gone in. But I actually don't think that ball was that great. I thought it was an okay delivery. It was better than, you know, beating the first man. But for one of them, I would expect my defender to clear that without a shadow of with no problem. Unless there was someone flicking it back, sort of like I don't expect my own player to put it in the back of the net, basically, because there shouldn't be enough pressure to do that. So I think it was poor from Højbjerg. And the second goal, Arsenal's third, that was worse, I thought, because Havertz had a free header. How can you have a free header within the 6-yard box? I know people are going to talk about possibly a push, but I'm like, he still had enough space to do that. And I think that's the biggest problem that Spurs had with it. You can't defend like that from corners in, one of your most important games of the season like that. It's not acceptable. And I think the players have got to take big blame for that, and the manager, Big Ange. You've got to do better. Arsenal, they've been doing it all season with the set pieces. You've got to know they're doing better defensively, working on that. Spurs aren't playing a game every 3-4 days. They're playing mainly one a week. You can have a few training drills on how to defend corners. So I think that's not it shouldn't be acceptable to concede 2 in the first half.
Yeah,
and it wasn't as if it was great corner sort of headers that have come in.
Yeah, and before we move on, I think 2 things to highlight. If I'm not mistaken, in terms of set piece goals conceded this season, I do believe that Man City and Arsenal are at the bottom of that list. So again, to make the point about the how crucial set pieces are, we're obviously seeing a record number of set piece goals. Arsenal, as Reece, as you said before, have just broken another record for set piece goals scored, and now we're seeing the 2 top teams in the league with the least set piece goals conceded. So maybe it's a coincidence, but I don't think it is. I think we're going to start to see, we know Villa, the commentators for some reason love to bang on about it. The guy on the touchline, their set piece coach all the time. And I think we're going to see it more and more prominent and we should see it more prominent in the coming years. In terms of Ben White,
just sorry to add on to your point there, it's something that's quite easily trainable, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it can be like, right, we're gonna, like, you see it all the time where they put 2 hands up, 1 hand up, scratch their arse, whatever. It's kind of, they should know what's going to come. So it's like 1 hand up, we're going near post, we're trying to flick it on. That post is so easy to train. So I think it should already be in the game. And like people before, like, your Allardyces, your Pulises, sort of, they would look at that and go, that's a big opportunity to score. And I think Arsenal have taken the same sort of route. City scored against Forest with a corner as well. I think teams should have been looking at that already. It's not science, like new science, is it? It's something that should be quite on top of things that like you don't see enough from managers.
100%. I think the data analysts and all of these people after this season, I think we will start to see a bit of a rise in set piece focuses, or at least we should. Like the numbers, as we've just reeled off, absolutely suggest that set pieces are crucial for teams either end of the league.
Thank you so much for watching so far. I will be very quick in this. All we ask is, could you hit that subscribe button for us? It helps us more than you know. We're trying to grow the channel. I personally am setting a target of 500 subscribers by the end of the season. If you could really help us out, that'd be great. Right, back to the video.
Let's move on to the actual game and the teams involved. So, Arsenal, for all intents and purposes, 3-0 up away in a title race to your local rivals is absolutely sensational. I would argue, actually, weirdly, they didn't deserve to be 3-0 up. They were just clinical. But I guess the question comes down to, Reece, you've definitely questioned it. We all have on this podcast, the mentality. Is there cracks in Arsenal still? I know that sounds ridiculous to say with a few games left of the season, then being top of the league. But Raya, just what on earth was he doing? Like, we've criticised Ramsdale. Raya has to put his hands up and say that's embarrassing. A failed chip. And then Rice, one of the worth 200 mil, as they say, absolutely booting a player to give away a blatant pen. Are we seeing cracks here in Arsenal, even at this late stage?
I think, yeah, there are cracks because they had to win the game against Villa and they didn't. So that's a crack. They had to get a result at Craven Cottage in December and they didn't. That's a crack. In terms of holding on to a lead, they've got better. They were good at it last season anyway, until those sort of 2 games against Liverpool and West Ham. But they've got better at it. you could see yesterday, yes, there were nerves, but there was much more of a togetherness to get it over the line. They'll be disappointed that the keeper gave away such a stupid pass. That was lazy. And quite frankly, would he have behaved like that at 2-0? I don't think so. So I'm sure he would have got an absolute telling off in the changing room after that. Because if that was Ramsdale, I think a lot of people would have been quite on him for that. So that was poor. But he regrouped well, to be fair. His catching was very good. He didn't need to punch the ball away. He went and caught the ball. So he offered a calm head. Declan Rice, I'm not trying to show favouritism, but I don't really blame him too much for that penalty. I think he just went for the ball and he's missed. It could have happened to every player. Let's be honest, if he didn't go for the ball, they'd probably get a better chance. So it's not the end of the world. Like, at the end of the day, like I said, a 3-0 lead is a 3-0 lead, but we were clinical. It weren't like we were dominant, right? So on another day, and another team might have come back, but yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say cracks, but like I said, the opportunities they've had, like where they had to get it over the line against Villa, they blew it. So they're always going to be there. But the resolve we saw yesterday was more impressive than it was last season.
Yeah, and I guess the bottom line is, if you make an error and you end up winning the game, does it really matter? They at the end of the day, you could say they made two clear errors, and ultimately, if you're 3-0 up, it doesn't matter. So you've got to give Arsenal credit. Jamie, from your perspective, did you look at that win and go, obviously they've got the 3 points, so it's frustrating, but did you look at that and go, oh, there's something there, they could do this again in the next few games?
So the first half, actually, sort of people going, oh, Spurs had more possession, all this, but Arsenal controlled the game. I think Arsenal had Spurs pretty much where they wanted. And you got to remember, even the offside goal was 2 ricochets off Arsenal players. And it's like that's just sort of the way the ball fell. And then they were fortunate there was an offside, very close, but it was offside. So they're fortunate in that way. But I think overall, they can be happy with how the first half went. And in the 3-0, I don't think there was complacency, but you could sort of suggest that with Raya's ball. And to be honest, I don't actually understand why Romero was there. Your centre half. I didn't understand. I was surprised watching it, and I was like, who did the ball actually go to? Because I was thinking, who's on the pitch? Because I know Maddison was off, because I was expecting it to be him, but it was Romero, and I was very surprised. But if Raya chips it, I don't know, a centimetre or 2 more, it might go over Romero, and then it looks like a perfect pass. So really, it's a mixture, but Raya can't keep doing that. And if he does things like that, because he has made a few mistakes this season. Ramsdale's got, criticism when he came and made mistakes. You can't keep making mistakes. And if he does it again next season, Arteta might be looking for another goalkeeper, because you can't keep doing it. So that's it. If he learns from it, it doesn't matter, because they won. If they didn't win, there'd be massive blame on him, because at that point it was 3-0. Spurs didn't even look like scoring, really. They were putting balls near the area, but it didn't look like it. Then the penalty, and then if there was maybe another 5 minutes, could they have conceded again? And then you would have gone, that's all come from Raya. So that's it. I do agree with Reece on the Rice. It's one of them. It's the player's gone full pelt. If he did it half a second more, then it's kind of, half a second more, I think Rice gets it clear. There's no problem. It's just one of them things. It happens in some games.
Yeah, and as we said, at the end of the day, it didn't cost them points, so they probably won't care in 3 weeks or whatever if they win the title. And cool. So I guess let's move on and kind of come to the conclusion of where we think both teams are going to finish and how this result actually impacts them. So obviously, unless if you've been living under a rock, Arsenal are still top of the league by 1 point. City obviously have a game in hand, but Arsenal have the +7 at the minute goal difference. So it is in City's hands, but City only need to draw to hand it back to Arsenal. So, Jamie, from your perspective, let's talk Spurs actually first. This leaves Spurs 7 points behind Villa, and they've still got 2 games in hand. So, again, big assumption to make. If they win the 2 games in hand, They're only a point behind with 3 games left. Do we still think Spurs can get top 4?
No, I don't anymore because of the fixtures they've got. They've got Chelsea away, Liverpool away, City at home. Like, they're 3 massive games. I don't expect them to get all 3 wins, really. So that's where I don't believe they can now get top 4. To be honest, I was hoping for Spurs to win, but now I'm hoping they lose so they have nothing to play for when they play us on the second last game of the season. But I think it's too much to ask for when you've got that tough games left. Because Chelsea, you don't know who's going to turn up for them. I think the Spurs game is Klopp's second last home game. The crowd are going to react to the sort of drop points, I think. And then City are going for the title and need to win. So it's very difficult. So no, I don't think they're going to get top 4. I think they'll get 5th and will be in Europa places next season.
Yeah. And if a quick plug for our video from a couple of weeks ago, we did do a top 4 video. I think I predicted all 3 positions to stay the same, so I'm gonna watch that video. It's looking good at the minute. For me, I don't see Spurs making it. As I said at the time, the fixtures, it's just too difficult. And Villa, we know they're a decent side. So for Spurs, I think this result doesn't change much. It will hurt their pride a little bit, but they did say they spared a few blushes with a late rally, at least. And I don't, despite our form, I don't think they'll beat us in the week. I think it'll probably be a score draw. I'll do Arsenal as well while I'm here. I think where this leaves Arsenal is still very much in the title race. That's the bottom line. You know, what we're seeing now, they showed the graphic on Sky Sports yesterday. The last 6 away games for Arsenal, they've won 5 out of 6. The only one they didn't win was away to City at the Etihad, and they didn't concede a single goal. You can question character, you can question mentality. The bottom line is that is title winning form, and they're doing it at the right time. The Villa, bit of a blip, bit of an anomaly. So I think, yes, they can do it. But the question is, where is City getting that draw from? But look, it's football. It's the Premier League. It's football. City can get a red card. Rodri could do a dirty tackle. Someone could get caught out. Like, it can still happen. And Arsenal fans, you're 3 games away from winning the Premier League for the first time in 20 plus years. That's absolutely insane. So yes, they can do it. I still think City will, but they are absolutely 100% in the mix here. Reece, where do you stand quickly on Spurs, and then ultimately where do you stand on Arsenal?
Spurs mathematically can. I think the game yesterday showed how well they've played without Harry Kane, but just how much he makes the difference. So he would have probably got a couple of goals yesterday. We don't know. You know, he's just that centre forward, you know, is probably what they're lacking at the moment. If they do it, if they win their games, then they can, because I don't think Villa could cope with that pressure. But I think Spurs weren't expecting a top 4 finish anyway at the start of the season. So I think they're going to settle, and I think they're happy with where they are. I don't think they can get any worse, like in 6th. I think they'll settle. Hence why I think City will probably steamroll them in a couple of weeks. But in terms of Arsenal side of things, I've always made it clear they're not going to win the league. They had their chance against Aston Villa and they threw it. So they've put all that pressure on themselves. If someone would offer me 2nd at the start of the season, I would have ripped your hand off. But it's also frustrating because we didn't lose to City. We didn't lose to Liverpool. We didn't lose to Spurs. We didn't lose to Chelsea. And yet we still come up short. It just goes to show how good City are. You know, you demand perfection. And I think there's doubts us going to Old Trafford in a couple of weeks. I think that's going to be bloody hard. Regardless what people think. United don't want to give Liverpool or City any favours, but they need to save themselves from some embarrassment. So it's done. City will win it. They've got the teams they're playing for haven't got anything to play for realistically. Wolves have got their deck chairs out. They're on the beach. They're done. Fulham, they're not going to care. They're done. You know, West Ham, don't even bother asking. They're not going to turn up, are they? So come on.
All right, Jamie, finish us off. Where can Arsenal do it, and do you think they will?
I think Arsenal will win their remaining games, so they'll do as much as they can. It comes down to City. I know Reece is sort of saying City will win them all. However, you've got to remember we did lose to Wolves earlier on in the season. I know it's away, but still happened. Fulham took points off Arsenal. There's still a chance. Spurs away. We've only just scored once, and that was this season in the FA Cup. We've not done it in the Prem yet.
Set piece
And
as
then-
well, by the way, just to reiterate our point.
What was that?
It was a set piece, I believe, as well.
Yeah,
Just to reiterate our
it was
point.
88th minute, 89th minute as well. It was a tough game kind of thing. And then finally we got West Ham at home. West Ham, drew with Liverpool in the week. So I still think there's chances of slipping up. But I've got to back my team. I'm expecting us to win all four, but I don't think it's as concrete as Reece puts.
They've got nothing to play for. If you were playing Fulham 2 months ago, it's a different story. None of them have got nothing to play for.
What was Fulham playing for 2 months ago? They weren't getting relegated and they weren't getting Europa. They actually had nothing to play for either.
They're done now. They're done.
Yeah, but no pressure. No pressure can sometimes bring results.
Yeah, but they're not going to be bothered, are they? Like, they're not.
I
Spurs will
hope
get
you're right, Reece. I hope we
steamrolled.
steamroll every team, let's be honest. But
Yes.
it's just not as a foregone conclusion as you make out. Like, yeah.
It's not. It's done. Like, come on, West Ham. Like, I'd love your end of fixtures. Like, bloody West Ham, they've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, but
If they were at home, different story. But they couldn't care less now. They're fine. Everyone's fine.
all it takes is one red card, one dodgy slip, one dodgy tackle. It can happen. But there you have it. We have had our say on the title race, on the top four race, but now we want to hear from you. Make sure you're following, make sure you're commenting, and let us know your thoughts on both of these predictions. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.